Hello and welcome back to Utah Adventures with Mike and an inflatable dinosaur. Every day, thousands pass the Great Saltair, and few know the history behind it. This is the third building to carry the name Saltair, but the history begins before that. In 1847, a group of LDS church members from Salt Lake City, led by Brigham Young, chose the site as a recreational bathing site. The Blackrock site predates Saltair by nearly 50 years. Believing that the high salinity of the lake could cure just about anything, people flocked to the resort. Kind of like how people thought cornflakes could cure horniness. If you don't know about that one, I suggest you look up the history of cornflakes. It was built as a wholesome retreat from the deviant life in the city. Yeah, Utah had a red light district including hookers, opium dens, gambling, and liquor. As the resort was built and operated by the LDS Church, things like gambling and liquor were not allowed. The dance floor was 35,000 square feet and could hold up to 5,000 people. The church sold the property in 1906. This was in part because the church owned and operated the most successful resort in the West, as well as the train that led to it. Many in the federal government referred to this as a Mormon monopoly. In 1925, fire destroyed almost everything. Before the ashes had cooled, planning had begun on the second Saltair. A little over a year later, it was opened for a new era. Jazz was sweeping the nation, and dances like the Charleston were everywhere. The owners actually tried to ban the dance, as they were afraid the stomping on the downbeat and the rhythmic resonance would actually vibrate the pilings out of the lake bed. Due to the advent of motion pictures, the Great Depression, receding water levels, and World War II, the second Saltair never reached the pinnacle of the first. Saltair II had a run of bad luck, a fire in 1931, closing the doors in 1958 because people were no longer willing to go so far away for entertainment, an arsonist fire in 1967, and another in 1970 finally sealed its fate. As the lake receded, newer and longer piers had to be built to get swimmers to the water, which you can see at the top of the frame here. After a recent rainstorm, the salt from the ground saturates the water, creating a highly reflective surface. The modern Saltair was built from a salvaged aircraft hangar from Hill Air Force Base in 1981, roughly a mile away from the first and second. Only months after opening, the lake reached historic high levels and flooded the building. Never even reaching the height of the second Saltair, the third is owned by private investors and holds semi-regular concerts. While you're driving I-80, don't forget to take a look at the eyesore, or art installation known as the Tree of Utah, built by Carl Moman in 1986. You can't talk about this area without talking about the world-famous Bonneville Salt Flats. Thousands of years ago, this whole area was under a massive inland sea known as Lake Bonneville. Today, people come from all around the world to test their speed on the flat, smooth surface. The salt around the Bonneville Speedway is approximately 46 square miles and in some areas is several feet thick. This is 90% sodium chloride, ordinary table salt. While thousands have traveled to the salt flats, one of the most notable is Bert Munro from New Zealand. His record still stands today, officially 184 miles per hour on a 1920 Indian Scout. Unofficially, he reached 205.6 miles per hour. If you haven't seen the world's fastest Indian, I highly recommend it. Not just famous for speed, it's famous for a barren landscape that sets the loneliness and isolation in such high-budget films as Independence Day, Pirates of the Caribbean 3, and The Philadelphia Experiment. Okay, maybe that one wasn't big budget. My family has their own claim to fame on the salt. My brother holds a record on his custom RD350 Yamaha, and I'm told my dad holds the record for a stock 1922 Ford Model T Pi Wagon at 45 miles per hour. Sadly, my brother passed away in 2024, and my dad only a few months later. At the end of this trip is Danger Cave, one of the oldest living areas discovered in the area dating back thousands of years. Early efforts to study the cave nearly resulted in several deaths. It was locked up, but they do occasionally have tours. There are several other caves in this area. One was known as Jukebox Cave, was used as a dance hall for soldiers from the Wendover airfield where the Enola Gay was housed. I'll be doing another video on Wendover. Thanks for joining me again, and I'll see you out there.